With Premier League survival now a mission impossible, will a trip to Chelsea on Sunday give Ipswich Town a chance to play without pressure and perhaps get their first home-away double of the season against familiar opposition in Enzo Maresca? Welcome to the Chelsea v Ipswich Town preview here on Blue Monday, an Ipswich Town podcast. Welcome to the Prematch show, Chelsea away edition. Welcome back, Seb Brown, into our usual time slot Thursday evening. If you're joining us in the live chat, let us know you're there. I think I'm just a bit worried everyone's a little bit down, Seb, after last weekend, and then we'll talk about this shortly as well. News regarding potential summer business also doesn't sound great. I mean, do we just need to have a collective group hug? I feel everyone needs a little bit of a perk up. Are we going to bring that on the pre-match show tonight, Seb, or is your research left you a little bit daunted?
Well, of course, you look at a side like Chelsea where they are in the league, and yes, the numbers I'm about to give you for the next 45 minutes or so obviously are going to be daunting. But yeah, think of this as your Thursday night therapy session. I know it's tough after the weekend, and you know the context of that game to go 1-0 up, and then the thing with the indirect free kick is blocked, and you think maybe things are going to go away, and obviously it didn't work out that way. And yes, you describe it as mission impossible, and that's probably what it is now. But you know, we've still got these games left. McKenna said as much in the post-match, didn't he? You know, we're going to go to St James's Park, we're going to go to Goodison Park, we're off to Stamford Bridge on Sunday. You know, there's still some great grounds to go to and kind of see as fans, and tick off some new grounds maybe for some people before the end of the season. And the best thing is about the Premier League is it finishes at the last weekend at May, and then pre-season probably start about 3 or 4 weeks later. So there's a shorter gap than usual. Championship fixtures will be out. We'll all get that buzz again, and we all start it again in August. It's what football fans do.
Yeah, we reset, we restart, we go again, don't we? And if you're if you're wanting to wish the season away, there's only 6 games left, folks. So it's going to drag out, as Seb says, for another 6-7 weeks or so. But we are getting through the games. So if you can't wait to see the back of the Premier League, and I was watching the midweek round of Championship games, Seb, and it's getting obviously to the business end in the Championship and the EFL as well, and it just feels so much more exciting. And you know, there's actual stuff to play for in the EFL in the Championship. And, you know, we've got this situation of the top 3. None of them seem to want top spot. They keep changing it around in Coventry. Great last minute goal for Coventry to sneak into the playoffs last night. Relegation still very much uncertain picture too. So unlike the boring Premier League where everything is pretty much done and dusted by now, EFL is nothing to be sniffed at. If only the money was the same, eh? But let's go say hello to the chats. First up, we've got Grant. Evening to you. Evening to AD, who I think we saw last weekend, didn't we, at the Grand, if I remember rightly. Streaky's got the right mindset. The sun is out. Cricket season has started. I think it's the wrong podcast duo for cricket chat. Masters Golf, though, I would be watching Masters Golf if I wasn't here. So I'm very much on to that afterwards. Oh, and it's off to Chelsea on Sunday, he says. Glorious. Good morning. Good day to Michael from Brisbane. Chilly 17 degrees. Chilly 17. Bit of an oxymoron there. Great to be at the Greyhound, wearing my badge with pride. Love that. Evening to Seabass. Streaky KM was spot on. It still matters. And all games matter apart from the Saints ones. Should we get this out of the way, Seb? There's a little bit of a debate going on in the chat. Evening to George. I'm assuming that's how I pronounce it. Apologies if I've got that wrong. So 30 mil, he says, without elaborating. And then Neil sets his stall out. Can we not talk about Delap and his transfer fee, please? So I think firstly, to reflect on, I hope that you guys can trust us in the respect of the conversation that we will have about Delap is going to be as rational as we can make it. But the fact is, Seb, us getting excited about whatever the relegation release clause is, as quoted by our friend Nick Ames in The Guardian and others, and TWTD, is not something we control. And my perception is it could be worse. We could have paid a loan fee for him and get nothing at all. So I'm kind of in that space with it, not wanting to drag this on for too long. What's your position?
It's frustrating. Of course, it's frustrating. You know, you've got this young English talent who's on 12 goals for the season, might well finish on 15, and you're kind of seeing numbers banded around. He's worth 50, he's worth 55, he's worth 60 million quid. And you think, brilliant, that's basically another first year of parachute payments. And then obviously there's been this thing going on probably since quite often after he started, that City had a buyback clause at 40 million pounds. And you're kind of thinking, okay, well, if they choose to activate that, you can't do anything about it. And then obviously this week, the news has broken that it's a 30 million pound relegation clause. It's being reported by all the right outlets. Nick Ames, obviously our friend in Telegram, The Guardian kind of broke the story, and a few other media outlets have jumped on it. And guys, if that's what it took to get him in the building, we simply have to accept it. I think, you know, we kind of forget maybe how hindsight is a wonderful thing. Any football fan can look back with hindsight and think someone was a pretty poor bit of business. We've got to remember he was sat in the Southampton training ground office a few days before he came to join us. There were rumours that he took an Ed Sheeran FaceTime call to potentially swing the deal. And as a newly promoted club, you know, in League One, we can blow other sides out the water with what we can offer because we're Ipswich Town. We're a very big fish in a small pond. In the Premier League, we don't have that sway, I'm afraid. And if that's what it took to get him there, then what choice do we have? Like you say, it could have been a season-long loan deal instead. And also at the start of the season, you know, he was 15 million pounds, rising to 20 on add-ons, etc. At that point, he's still completely untested in the Premier League, coming off was it 7-8 goals at Hull last year? An injury where he missed a few months playing on the right wing. Had George Hurst been fit going into the Liverpool game? Does he start that game? There's question marks around there, you know. So, yes, it's frustrating, but having seen the cards we were holding at the time, it's the best the club can do to get the signing across the line. We have to accept it. And newsflash, there's probably going to be more. Let's be honest. I'd imagine a lot of this young talent that's joined us, these people aren't stupid. These people have agents and advisors. They're going to be saying, you know, Ipswich have done fantastic for 2 years, but if you're going to sign a 50 grand a week contract, do you want to get paid 25 grand a week after year one? Or should we put a bit of an insurance policy in there to move you on in the summer if the worst comes to the worst? So it is what it is. There's probably going to be a few more. Control the controllables and trust those that are kind of in the decision-making positions to hopefully they got it right first time round. Hopefully we can negotiate some sort of sell-on as part of that buyout regardless. So we may get a bit of profit this summer. And then if he does go, let's say, for an extra few million a couple of years down the line, we are handsomely rewarded then. And you've got to trust them to make the right decisions with the money we get in and reinvest it. So yes, it's frustrating. Probably had no choice. We have to accept it, guys.
Yeah, I think that's all she wrote on it. Obviously, folks, you're entitled to your opinions, your emotions. They are yours. I guess where both Seb and I appear to be, and other members of the pod team might feel differently about this, of course. I suspect we won't be dragging this conversation out too much, however, is that this is a very complex landscape that we find ourselves in. And I don't think any of us anticipated the season that Liam Delap would have. And if we said at the start of the season when he joined that he'd probably have a relegation release clause, I don't think any one of us would be surprised by that. There's a lot of hindsight, as you say here, Seb. And I think probably the only lesson learned, probably if I'm being super critical, is maybe Mark Ashton needed to manage expectations a little bit better than he has done. Perhaps can't talk about specifics, of course, but I think a lot of people read too much into the being well protected. I think there's a different perception in everyone's minds about what well protected means, and I think maybe even just not mentioning it and letting it play out might have been a better strategy. But you know.
But that might infer that we're protected in the future with the sell-on clause. We don't know the ins and outs of these deals.
Exactly, you know. Right. We are speculating, aren't we? Apart from
we may get a second windfall in a few years' time, and that might be the protection. Fair. And then if you add the two figures together, you're looking okay, and that's how this works, I guess. And also, you know, to go from 15 million quid a year ago, he'll be worth 12 million on our books after a year of depreciation. If we do get 30 million, and I know City have got a sell-on, you're still talking about, you know, a really good bit of player trading, not as good as we maybe wanted to be, but still very good player trading for a club that, let's be honest, for the last 10 years has traded pretty awfully. So, you know, trust the people at the top to make the right decisions.
Process, trust the people. Yeah, there you go. I was trying to find an angle to kind of widen the perspective on it, but I think we've done as much as we can on there. And I think as Horse Hollerer reminds us, look at us moaning about only getting 30 million for a player 2 years after struggling against Cheltenham Accrington. First world problems, Horse Hollerer. I think Seb and I, and David mentions it as well, some reality here. I think we all agree with that. Draw a line under it. We can't control it. Let's enjoy Liam Delap whilst he's in the pink, we think. Stevie's asked, are we in pink? I don't think the club have confirmed, but Seb and I the brains trust, we've gone with pink tonight because I don't think it certainly won't be blue. So we're going with pink. And another bit of business. Do you want to quickly talk about Cameron Burgess? We've the is it Girona? Is it in La Liga or whatever it is? It'd be sad to see him go if that happens. It looks like there's some actual concrete stuff behind that story. So that would be a bit sad to see him go, wouldn't it?
It would be, yeah. I know Hladky, Jackson, Harness, Edmondson have all kind of moved on, but I'd suggest he might be the first. Him and Luongo, if Luongo gets released, they will potentially be the first two of the kind of, the League One and Championship stalwarts to move on. So of course that would be sad if he does go. He's out of contract in the summer. We triggered the option last summer, so there's no option to trigger to get a fee or anything. Being a European club, he can talk with them from January just gone onwards. So the stuff that's breaking now would suggest that kind of chats have been had. Incredibly dependable. I mean, if you look at where he was when he joined us, came in from, he's playing in a back three at Accrington Stanley, the left-sided one. I remember thinking the first couple of times I saw him, if you spin him on the halfway line, he's done. And we've signed him as maybe a head it and kick it kind of defender. And the development in his game is both a testament to him, firstly, obviously, and to Kieran McKenna, and shows, what McKenna can do with players. And if he goes, then, to go and play in La Liga or at Girona, a top flight club, is an excellent experience, excellent opportunity for him. And we would obviously wish him well, but it'll be sad because it's going to be the startup now of this kind of breakup of these players. I know a few of the fringe ones have gone, but Luongo getting released potentially, Burgess moving on would kind of be the first two to go, but wish him well because he's been ever dependent. Jacob Greaves comes in for 20 million quid from Hull in the summer, and Burgess, there's a debate there to be had who's had the better season. Burgess is incredibly steady, incredibly great, in terms of attributes in the air and that left-footed ping. And yeah, we would obviously all wish him well, and we'd all be tuning into the La Liga games to see how he's getting on.
And the sun shines in Ipswich muchly. Good words, but Spain's a bit of a different situation, isn't it? And if he's got a young family, I don't know too much about his off-field situation, but if he's got a young family living abroad, is an experience that, I think a lot of people would want. So good luck to him. And if it does work out that way, he's been a very important player in a very important era in the modern history of Ipswich Town, isn't he? So we wish him all the very best. ITFC Women, Seb,
talk me through it. So you were off to this time last week. We were off to Watford, and you put the caveat in saying that was the toughest game because Watford were fourth and having a decent season. You made the trip down there last Sunday, 1-0 defeat. Talk me through that one first of all. What kind of happened and what went on at that one?
Yeah, I think Joe Sheehan described it post-match as one of those games where the first goal wins, and Town hit the bar. Natasha Thomas absolutely smashed a shot from the edge of the box off the crossbar, and it bounced out, and then Cross came in for a glancing header which went narrowly wide, and you kind of felt that was our moment. And then Town started the second half really well, but Watford broke away and pretty well taken goal, and then as the home team just sat in and made it a really grotty spectacle, really difficult game. Town made lots of subs to try and change it, but just couldn't get the flow going. And it's very easy to spoil a game if that's your intent. And Watford held on to their 1-0 pretty well, and actually probably the better teams that I've seen Ipswich play this season, better than hashtag, I'd say. And just one of those days, really frustrating. But no kind of real damage done. There's still two games to play. There's still 3-point gap to second, so just need to get the job done against MK Dons.
I won't call it a gimme because you'll probably end the stream and kick me out of it because there's no such thing as a gimme in football. But if you had to choose a game where you want to get 3 points, you would presumably choose a side that hasn't won all season in 20 odd games and has a goal difference of minus 96 and has conceded 106 so far this campaign. So yes, it's not a gimme, but we are off to, is it played at the MK Dons Stadium? So we're off to the MK Dons Stadium on Sunday to face MK Dons Women, and this will get the job done, and it's done on Sunday afternoon, and at least some ITFC fans making the trip down to that part of the world on Sunday will enjoy themselves, as opposed to ones like me heading off to West London potentially.
There might be a few people passing each other at Milton Keynes Station on Sunday. Yeah, maybe wishing they might be making the walk into town. Yeah, as you say, I mean, it's really tough season for Milton Keynes. The budget has been slashed in the summer. A lot of players announced they were leaving before the pre-season had even started this year. New coach, I think. So they were always, it's a very young team, and the results have kind of shown it. And the level increases every year. The third tier just gets better and better, and MMK have just been left behind. And you talked about those stats at home. The one draw they've managed to achieve this season was at home, so not all bad at Stadium MK, but 9 losses, and they've only scored 10 goals all season. 7 of those have come at home, but 55 of the 106 goals they've conceded also at home, so a negative 44 goal difference. So, like, Town needed a late goal last year at MK to win it. They were very much a team kind of with good talent and good high quality players, and a year is a long time in football. A year and a half is a long time in football compared to that game, I think, which was in September time. So yeah, look, Town will be keen to bounce back from Watford. And the great thing is, after the hashtag defeat, not a great situation, Town 1-4 on the bounce. So win the last 2. The win on Sunday all but confirms it, Seb. The goal difference is what is the differentiator, but hashtag still have to play Exeter and Oxford, 3rd and 5th respectively. So it could be that they drop points too. So yeah, let's take care of ourselves. Let's get the job done on Sunday. It'd be great to score some goals. I'm sure the girls will be really keen to make a statement after last week, and then Cheltenham at home on the final day. Tickets are on sale for that one, by the way. If you are thinking of making that trip, if that would be your first ever ITFC Women's game, do get your tickets in advance. I think there's a good chance, assuming Sunday goes as we hope/expect, that could be quite a busy one. So do get in there quick, and don't leave it to chance on the day, is what I would suggest there. Chelsea, Seb, for the men, I kind of had a theory last week about Wolves, and our win at Molineux precipitated a change in the dugout that's then sent this on this. I think that Joe was saying on the Flagship, have they got the 3rd most points accumulated since they made that managerial change? Or since
they've actually got the best now, because both Liverpool and Arsenal dropped points last weekend. So Wolves were the most informed side since the start of February.
So what we did to Wolves, we've kind of did the opposite to Chelsea. The only victory at Portman Road in the league this season. And what a great night that was. I don't think, unfortunately, you were there for that one. Great atmosphere, great result. We'll talk more about that later. But since then, seemingly, Seb, we've unsettled Chelsea a little bit. They'll be maybe looking to put some stuff right, perhaps, against us. That worries me.
Yeah. Since we kind of had that defeat, I think they played Everton before us and drew 0-0, if I remember rightly. And I think that game could have taken them maybe top of the league, maybe to within a few points of Liverpool. It was quite a seminal moment. And I think the Sky reporters or the TV reporters asked Enzo Maresca and said, if you could win today, you're either top of the league or a point behind. Are you in a title race? And he kind of went, no, etc. And since that wobble, it's kind of really set them off. The home form is incredibly strong. It's the home form that's kept them where they are, but the away form is a real struggle. They're winless, I think, in 8 games on the road, and it's not gone well away from home at all. And I kind of think now the Everton sale has gone through and they're about to move to a new stadium. I think Chelsea are probably the most bonkers club in the Premier League, I would suggest, given what's gone on there in such a short space of time. Obviously, the heavy managerial kind of changes since Clearlake took over in May 2022. And I guess if Maresca gets we know it's top 5 now after the result last night, after the Arsenal result on Tuesday night, the top 5 places in the Premier League will all get Champions League football. That's been confirmed. And at the start of the season, given the couple of years they've had, you probably would have said Champions League football, job done. Let's be honest, they should win the Europa Conference League. They're 3-0 up. They played tonight. They're 3-0 up against, is it Legia Warsaw in the first leg? They've kind of have been able to pretty much not register any of their top players for the first half of the campaign, and they can do heavy rotation and still pull off victories in that one. So if it gets to the end of May and they've got Champions League football and they've won a European trophy, then they'll probably say job done and look to progress on next season. It's just the way they started the season so well and have kind of fallen away a little bit in the last kind of 4 months, and maybe puts a bit of a question mark over them. They're currently sat 4th on 53 points. They're a point clear of Man City in 6th. So City are breathing down their necks, but obviously City are going through their own issues in terms of form and stuff. They've got the same number of points of Newcastle in 5th, but Newcastle do have a game in hand which they play on Wednesday night against Crystal Palace. They're only 2 points ahead of Villa in 7th. And there's been a lot of talk this week that the Premier League is pretty boring, which this season it is. The title's done, the relegation spots are done, there's very little jeopardy at either end of the table, so all kind of focus will switch to this Champions League race. Arsenal have got their spot. Can Forest get across the line? Can City and Villa, Fulham, probably a massive outside bet, but certainly can City and Villa hunt down Newcastle and Chelsea? And this is where the focus is going to go, I'd say, for the remainder of the season. They are very strong at home. As I've said, they've won their last 5 games on the bounce at Stamford Bridge, beating Spurs, Leicester, Southampton, West Ham and Wolves. The away form hasn't been great. They've only lost 2 games at Stamford Bridge so far this season. The opening game of the season for them, the opening weekend against Man City, and they lost to Fulham in December, I think just before they came to Portman Road. Yeah, so it's the home form that's kept them there, and now they're wondering, can they get themselves across the line and qualify for Champions League, which they need to, because this is a club that has spent an awful lot of money. We'll discuss some of the money they've spent. They're going to need those Champions League revenues, because last year they sold a hotel. This year they've sold the women's team. They're kind of maneuvering very cleverly around FFP stuff, I would suggest. But they're going to need that revenue at some point, because you would anticipate it's going to catch up with them.
Feels like a kind of a Man United situation when we spoke about them. Big money spent on transfers, recruitment. We've talked about a few times, I think, in passing, just some really eye-watering amounts of money spent on players. We'll talk more about that later on, but it does feel like it needs to settle itself down at some point. And is there anything else on the kind of financial side, or should we skip through that?
Just some numbers for people. We didn't do a Chelsea pre-match back in December, obviously, because it was around the Christmas period. So just some kind of numbers and a bit of a brief timeline. Obviously, Abramovich owned them for years. They were the club that somehow still had success, even though they sacked their manager every single year. Mourinho, Ancelotti. They kind of won title after title, won a couple of Champions Leagues in there as well. And then May 2022, the takeover goes through. Abramovich sells, and Clearlake and Todd Bowley's kind of the public face of it. They buy it. They sack Thomas Tuchel a few months later. They pay £21 million to get Graham Potter and his backroom staff out of Brighton. 6 months later, they fire him and have to pay him £13 million in compensation. They hire Frank Lampard as an interim, has an awful spell there. Start of last season, Pochettino joins the former Spurs manager, does okay, gets them into the Europa Conference League, and kind of in the second half of last season started to show a few kind of signs that they could look to push on. But for whatever reason, they got rid of him, and they went inside, and obviously Enzo Maresca last summer. And was it the Carling Cup final last year, the League Cup final, where Gary Neville called them the £1 billion bottle jobs? That's basically their transfer spend. They've spent £1 billion. Obviously, they bought money in, but yeah, it's £1 billion outlay pretty much so far. Slightly higher given the January and the previous summer window. That's what the outlay's been on transfers since Clearlake took over, which is an eye-watering sum of money.
And we wonder why the Premier League is closed shop, folks. Last time out, a pretty fortuitous away point. You mentioned the away form not so good. And I, on the basis of the highlights that I saw, Brentford could have scored 4 or 5. I think Chelsea had a couple of chances, but it looked like Brentford dominated.
Yeah, they rotated heavily, Chelsea. They played this time last week. They played Spurs in the league at Stamford Bridge? Yeah, I think it was. And therefore, playing on the Sunday, they did a bit of rotation, and it just backfired. It was a 0-0 draw. Brentford should have won, missed a few sitters. I think Visser missed one at the far post. The defender, Van der Berg, put a header down into the ground and over in the last few minutes. And yeah, they really got out of jail there. They had 21 shots still, 5 on target, 59% possession, but it was not a good performance, and it's kept in with this run of being pretty poor on the road. And Enzo Maresca, who we'll talk about now, is coming in for a bit of criticism from the Chelsea fan base, because there is simply no plan B. Plan B is simply to do plan A again and keep it going. And
Leicester fans probably had that thought when they were trying to scrape over the line last season. I remember them talking
exactly what I was about to say. There were also question marks from the Leicester fans last year about kind of style of play and the lack of really kind of tactical flexibility, I would suggest. He's obviously been there since last summer. They had the brief flirtation with McKenna, didn't they? But they went down the road of Enzo Maresca. Obviously, best known for winning the title with Leicester last year, 99 points, beat us by, was it 2 or 3 points in the end? I think it was maybe, to win the championship last season. Formerly Man City's assistant manager under Pep during the treble season, and he's kind of coming out with these weird quotes, because like I said, there's a bit of criticism around his style of play. It's plan A. If plan A doesn't work, we just plan B is to do plan A again. And there was a moment recently I think it was in a game at Stamford Bridge, where Enzo Fernandez was bursting through, and it was quite a good opportunity to get a shot off, but he paused, turned, sent the ball back, and there was kind of a bit of derision in the crowd and that kind of stuff. And Maresca came out afterwards and says, the good thing is Fernandez knows if he doesn't play back, I'll change him, i.e. I'll sub him. If the keeper plays long, I will change him. this is what we have. So he's very, very insistent, very regimented on this kind of tactical philosophy he's got around possession and control, and it's basically his way or the highway.
Fair enough. I guess when you've got a squad of about 40 players, I guess you can be a bit ruthless like that, but you've got to get the results at certain points, isn't it? I remember a very cantankerous, very stoic manager, and he used to be in charge of our football club, and that didn't end up so well, to quote him. But yeah, interesting that on Maresca, I don't think he's over. Is it 2 draws and a defeat against us in his time? Yeah,
Maresca, drew both games last season against Leicester, 2-1 draws with late equalisers, and obviously the defeat for him at Portman Road last year. So yes, a manager who hasn't beaten us. Yeah,
I'm trying to find these things, folks, because we'll talk about the players shortly, and we've talked about the home records. I'm trying my best for you. And now to continue the thoughts of well, the head-to-head record is probably as people expect. Talk us through the head-to-head.
Yeah, obviously against a side like Chelsea, it's going to be weighted in their favour. 10 wins for Town, 10 draws between the two, and 26 wins for Chelsea. Last time we met them, push you guys towards the excellent Blue Monday Rewind. It is back this week with Craig and Dave. The last time we met them in the league was a 2-1 defeat in November 2001, just after the Helsingborg away game. Gianfranco Zola and Sam Dallabona won it in the last minute from range. Marcus Stewart scored for Town. The last meeting at Stamford Bridge, however, was an FA Cup game. We played them in kind of 2 out of 3 seasons in the FA Cup third round. It was a 7-0 defeat. Are you wearing that shirt because it was a 7-0 defeat?
No, the 3-1. I was there for that one. So yeah.
So a 7-0 defeat in January 2011. This is a few days after Roy Keane has left and about 3 days before the Thomas Priskin Arsenal 1-0 game. We also played them in the shirt that you're wearing. A 3-1 defeat in the FA Cup third round in 2009 when Jim Magilton was the manager. And the last victory for Town at Stamford Bridge was in May 1979. Not even Rich was born when we last won at Stamford Bridge. And Neil's got it, Bob on here. Here we go. Which one do you want? Do you want the 7-0 FA Cup third round defeat from 2011, or do you want the 3-1 from 2009? There are a few players who appear in both, so I'll let you choose. You were at one of them.
Can I do the one that I was at? Because that
makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I remember Alex Bruce equalising from a set piece goal, header close in. Scenes. So this is This is like peak Magilton era, I guess.
This is the last 6 months of Magilton's reign. Yeah, this is January 2009. Obviously, Roy Keane comes in April 2009. So this is just after the first big spending window of the Marcus Evans era.
Hide in the chat. So Macaulay Norris.
Macaulay partnered Bruce. Norris is in midfield. Yes, it looks like a 4-4-2.
Oh, blimey. John Walters.
Johnny Walters, yep, up front.
I'm trying to think of the big names from that era now. It was not Fulop in goal, was it, at that point?
Fulop was in the 2011 side. He's not in the 2009 side. 2009 side was a player that obviously got promoted with us.
Is John Stead in it?
No. The 2009... the keeper in the 2009 game is a player... Yeah, Pablo up front alongside Walters. Keeper got us promoted in 2000 and moved to Arsenal and played about 5 games in 10 years. Yep.
Fair enough.
So the full backs, the right back and the left back, and you need the other 3.
Harding?
No, that's way younger. If we can't make a player out of him, we've done something wrong.
Falkenstein.
It looks like he was left back. So you need the right back, very dependable player. Released too early. Released too early by Roy Keane. Scored a headed goal against Derby in Roy Keane's first win on the 31st of October in 2000. At the start of the
chat
next
helping
season.
Me out. I might nip into the chat. Oh, that's a good shout, Neil. Alan Quinn?
No, it was David Wright was the fullback.
Oh, David Wright. You should have said.
So you need the 2 centre mids. It looks like David Norris was the right mid. You need the 2 centre mids and the left winger.
Oh, no, Tommy Miller.
Tommy Miller was centre mid.
I remember it. That was it because there was a few players who came back for a second spell.
That's it. Yeah,
and he was in a sitting role, wasn't he, Miller? And everyone was really frustrated. Why hasn't he scored 30 goals for us like he did in the previous era? There you go.
2 more. Both academy prospects. Both came through. Delaney. No, this is 2 midfielders. You need a central midfielder, classy, left-footed player. Never really kicked on. Probably like he should have done. Maybe
Owen Garvin.
And the left winger / left attacker was the Canary Killer.
Oh, Danny Haynes. Wow.
Danny Haynes.
There you go. I couldn't. Yeah, Neil's got there in the end. There you go, Garvin. Yeah, wow. Alex Bruce. Oh, there you go. Neil's. I should put. There you go. On the slight delay, Neil. But have we got that full 11? Do you want to do the other one? Do you want to? I mean, if you've got it, let's do this a bonus one for the.
I have it to hand. Go on then. So I'll give you the same names. You've got Macaulay played both. Norris played both. That's it. Just those two. So you got the keeper. You already got Martin Fulop. So you've got the keeper. Yeah. So
Schumer Lakoski. I don't know.
No. I think he's gone at that stage. I think.
Okay. You need to give some clues then. I think.
We played a centre back at right back, as Roy Keane would tend to do. I know he's gone, but as Roy Keane would tend to do, Troy Brown was the right back. Yep. Left back. So the left centre half was on loan from Celtic. Played left back that season as well.
Darren O'Day.
Yep. Okay. The left back was probably about 40 years old when we signed him from Cardiff, and he went on to become a coach with us, I think.
Mark Kennedy.
Yep. You said Carlos Edwards earlier in the other game. He was the right winger. Okay. The left winger.
Ledbetter then? Are we in that era? No, okay.
He might have been in that era, but he's not playing this game. Norris was one of the central midfielders. The assist for Thomas Priskin's goal a few days later came from...
Oh, Colin Healy.
Colin Healy was alongside David Norris. Two strikers up front. One was our youngest ever player. Probably still is actually at the time. Connor Wickham. Alongside sold Johnny Walters and bought this guy from Swansea, and he was a bit old.
Jason Scotland.
Yeah. And then the left winger, from what I can tell from the lineup, the left winger was a player that both Chelsea and Man United wanted to sign. We signed him.
Jamie
He's really good at running in a straight line and couldn't do anything after that. Yeah.
and you guys are bitching about Liam Delap. How many of those players did you have with the Ipswich team in 2025? Good stuff. If you got any of those, some names mentioned in the chat, if you're listening back and shouting at your podcast app of choice, how stupid is Rich to not know those teams. That's why we do the feature, but well done. And you give yourself a pat on the back. We've talked briefly about the 2-0 Seb. That was essentially Muric bombed out, wasn't he? Walton came in, kept a clean sheet, got a nomination for Save of the Month for a very unorthodox save, but probably a bit of an iffy penalty awarded for us, I think you could say. But a great goal from Amari in front of the North Stand, and my mate Desassi didn't have his best night, did he?
Bullied, wasn't he, by Liam Delap?
One of the few nights of enjoyment at Portman Road this season, but we've done it once, folks. Who says we can't do it again? But transfer business said more money spent, wasn't there?
Yeah, well, they didn't do anything in the window, but since then they've spent 62 million quid on two teenagers from Sporting Lisbon. One will join at the end of this season, and one will join, I think, at the end of next season. And that just shows the levels, doesn't it? You know, if they can spend a billion quid in total and 62 million pounds on what is effectively two punts, what chance do newly promoted sides have? They did a bit of sort of squad management in the window. Your mate Axel Dizazi went out to Villa before you probably put him in your fantasy team and wonder why you lose every week. João Felix, the player they loaned and was crap, and then paid money for him and he was still crap. They then loaned him to AC Milan. Other examples of the bonkers nature of the club. Ben Chilwell was bombed out on the eve of the season along with Raheem Sterling. Sterling got his move to Arsenal in August. Chilwell didn't. He was loaned to Crystal Palace. And Carney Chukwuemeka was loaned to Dortmund. He recovered from a bad injury, so he can go out there and get some game time. And the one thing that strikes me with their transfers is, if you watch them, they seem to be a really good goalkeeper and a really good centre forward away from really pushing on and probably making the Champions League quite comfortably. And to spend £1 billion and yet have Robert Sanchez as your number one.
5 keepers, haven't they?
Yeah, well, they've loaned out that Petrovic, the one who was probably their best goalkeeper last year, has gone out on loan to, is it Strasbourg, the club they own in France, I think he might be at. They've got a very highly rated young keeper joining them this summer, I think it is. Jorgensen was the guy in goal for us. He played tonight.
He came in, didn't he?
He was in goal against the Portman Road game and gave the penalty away against Delap. So it seems strange that you've got Robert Sanchez and Nicholas Jackson, who are, decent Premier League level players, but they're not Champions League level players. So it's strange to spend all that money and pack your squad out with number 10s and central midfielders and not focus on the two glaringly obvious parts of the pitch. But there we go.
Agree with that. Yeah. Yeah, Nicholas Jackson as well goes a really streaky player, isn't he? You kind of think one
But
week
he's never been prolific. I mean, the
like,
summer before he joined Chelsea, in the window, the January window, he was linked with Bournemouth. That was kind of his level. I think he got 12 goals for Villarreal, but he fits the model, doesn't he? He fits this Chelsea model of young potential, can develop and do a bit of player trading. And yeah, when that's your business model, I guess it's bizarre that you don't go with someone kind of proven. If you look at all the players, even Cole Palmer, he was a relative kind of punt at the time, and this is what they do. They don't like to go out and sign the ready-made product. They like to build that, presumably to increase the balance sheet and do some player trading.
I think of a striker that they might want to sign in summer. We'll move on from that. I mean,
and Maresca obviously knows him from his time at Man City as well.
And you look at Kepa now starting at Bournemouth. He could be doing a job there. I know he's got some interesting history with the League Cup final. I think we talked about that maybe at some point in the season. Anyway, I don't think the trading has been particularly good there. I think we can. That's the headline, isn't it? Should we talk about the configuration? I'm guessing 4-2-3-1 like it was last season at Leicester, is it?
Yeah, 4-2-3-1, 4-2-3-1, heavily regimented. They've played it in all 31 games so far this season. It's all about possession and control. Very high in the possession numbers, very high in the high press. So it starts off as you can see on the screen, the 4-2-3-1. If we do our normal bring it forward to the average player positions, you will see it's kind of almost like a back three. The right back, Gusto on this occasion against Brentford. Like I said, they did rotate heavily. Reece James is normally over there as well when he's not injured. He kind of pushes up, and as you can see there, Chalobah and Adebayo are the two centre halves that kind of hang back a little bit. Sancho and Madueke hold the width out wide. They played Nkunku as the central striker against Brentford, not Nicholas Jackson. Nicholas Jackson prefers to play off the shoulder because he's very, very quick, and Nkunku's more of a kind of attacking number 10, so naturally he will dip slightly deeper. And Casado is your ultimate insurance policy. If we then flip it to where they took their most touches, you will see a very high line. It's all about possession and control and relentlessness. If the ball gets cleared from the opposition box, they want their centre halves picking up on the halfway line and getting ready to kind of go again. The fullbacks will invert. You can see Gusto there is actually more in field than Enzo Fernandez, and Reece James is pretty much in line with Nkunku and Dewsbury Hall. So they will kind of create overloads in the centre of the pitch. And one thing you notice that graphic there's just a huge gaping hole down the middle of their attack. They kind of seem to overload both flanks, and they get their kind of wide players hold positions, and they get the two of the kind of central midfield 3/2 out there to support them. But there's a massive gap down the middle, and that kind of goes back to that what I was saying a minute ago. Imagine if you had a penalty box, a fox in the box, a modern day Francis Jeffers. Imagine the damage you could do with that kind of player. So yeah, it will be kind of high press, high line, potentially space in behind for our quicker players to exploit, but they will have an awful lot of the ball and they will keep coming at you all game, as is Maresca's way.
Yeah, quite narrow, isn't it? The back line in that situation too. The old 4-6 formation. We know it. We know it well. Any stats you want to draw attention to us before we start to panic?
As I said, 58% possession is the second highest in the league, very possession heavy behind Man City. They are third in terms of slowness and methodical build-up behind Southampton and Man City. So it's not like a Forest or a Wolves that look to get the ball forward quickly. It's all going to be very process-driven and very, very methodical.
And in that context, do you see Ipswich deploy maybe an Arsenal strategy and trying to frustrate, sit in?
Perhaps. Yeah, potentially. Yeah, that could be a good shout. We could look to frustrate them and kind of be disciplined out of play. We'll come on to our team selection, what we think we might do. But I think the off-the-ball work on the weekend is going to be crucial this weekend. A lot of these stats, as you would expect, mirrors their kind of lead positions. Anyone I would kind of jump out with is that 490 short passes per game is the second highest behind Man City.
Oh.
As I said, yeah, they do not go long. But they kind of 8 clean sheets is mid-table, and they are dirty bastards. The worst discipline in the league by a mile, with 87 yellows, which is 9 ahead of the next highest. So expect a bit of fouling and expect a bit of S-housery from certain players who we will discuss in a second.
Yeah, I think the players to discuss probably, Seb. I think both you and I are worried that Cole Palmer has been on such a bad streak that along come Ipswich. The other name that I guess I'd chuck in who was missing at Portman Road, who I think he's the captain, isn't he? Reece James, great player. Good to see him back from an England point of view, but not so great that he's back from an Ipswich standpoint. You mentioned Madueke and Sancho. Caicedo. I mean, there's some real quality in there, money spent to get it in there.
Yeah.
But do you want to talk briefly about Palmer?
So Palmer's the main guy, isn't he? Not having as good a season as he had last year. He's still got 14 goals and 7 assists. He got an assist last weekend for the winner against Spurs. He hasn't scored a league goal since the middle of January. I think it was Bournemouth. By his incredibly high standards, he's on a really, really bad run of form. I bet everybody in the chat, and I bet you a minute ago, as soon as I gave that stat, just thought, and then along come Ipswich, like we used to say all the time. He's a top-class player. Look, last year he was playing more off the right. This year he's kind of more central in the 10, an absolute quality player who we will have to keep an eye on. He played tonight in the...
Did a good job on him. Did a good job on him at Portman Road.
He did. He's played tonight in the Europa League, but I fully expect him to start. You've just discussed some of the names. Jadon Sancho, weird one that. He's on loan. He's got an obligation, but apparently if they pay £5 million, they can send him back, which isn't the best kind of thing for his character. Perhaps maybe saying he's not going to fit in with them. Moses Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez, the two central midfielders, average 139 touches per game between them. Reece James, like you say, is he's actually older than I kind of thought he was. It was an awful long time ago. He was running rings around everybody in central midfield for Wigan in the Championship. He will probably shift back across to right back, and I would assume professional bell end Mark Cucurella will come back in.
Welcome back,
left back after the theatrics where he threw himself to the ground at Portman Road. He'll probably come back in at left back. And I've already mentioned Robert Sanchez. A couple of numbers for you on him. Only 7 clean sheets in 25 appearances so far this season. He's top of the league for save percentages, with that saving on average 75% of the shots he's saved, but he also has 5 errors directly leading to a goal, tied with a certain Aaron Muric. So he is more than capable of throwing one in every now and again. They've got some injuries. Wesley Fofana, the poor guy's out for the season again. I think he's got I think it's a hamstring or a calf or something. Romeo Lavia is back amongst the subs. He's only made 1 appearance since January, but he could be back. And Mykhailo Mudryk is suspended for, allegedly taking a banned substance. Imagine how shit he would be if he hadn't taken the performance-enhancing drugs, allegedly.
Well, I didn't. Not sure you gave me a heads up. You're going to mention that.
I think it's confirmed because he's banned, so I think it's confirmed. Yeah.
Let's move it on.
Allegedly.
Finally, allegedly. This is the weekend, folks. From the folk that brought you VAR comes semi-automated offsides. Skynet gets to help decide whether folk are on or offside. What could possibly go wrong? On that bright note, thank you, Seb, for all of your Chelsea insight. We'll be back in a bit to talk about Ipswich. And here's Mikey to talk about Atwell's.
Blue Monday is brought to you in partnership with Atwell Solicitors, your ideal legal partner for property and business law. Whether you're buying a home, starting a business, or just need legal guidance, our dedicated team has got you covered. Trust our award-winning customer service team to handle your legal matters with care and expertise. Find out more at atwells.com or visit us at our offices in Ipswich, Colchester, London, and our new location in Woodbridge.
Thanks to Mikey. Thanks to Atwells. And if we win on Sunday, it was because we've changed the Atwells advert. Finally, we've given it a bit of a revamp. So thank you to them for their continued support and to One Stop Badges as well. Seb, are you going to be there on Sunday?
I am. I'm doing a day trip to West London, as you do.
Are you going to take some Blue Monday One Stop Badges with you?
It sounds like it, doesn't it? Yes, I'll try to make sure.
Probably should.
In the car and then try and get them through the London Underground to the stadium.
Good luck with that. So if you see Seb at Stamford Bridge and you want a limited edition that we keep reordering, Blue Monday One Stop Badge, go and find Seb. Otherwise, pre-match at most matches, if you find probably Seb or I think we're the most responsible members of the podcast team. None of them are listening to this, so I can say that. So it's totally fine because they repeat stuff that we say and pretend that it's the first time they've ever said it. So I know that for a fact. Moving on, chucking my colleagues under the bus. My colleagues will be back Sunday night on the Flagship show to talk about the game. Joe will be hooning it up the A12, I'm sure, to get back in time to chat to Ben and Dave about the game after the fact. But as always, if you want to support us here at Blue Monday, a thumbs up on YouTube, very much appreciated. 5-star rating on your podcast app of choice, and do subscribe, whether it's video or YouTube, video or podcast. Blue Monday content coming at you for the rest of the season. It just magically appears. It's there, a warm, comforting friend during a time of torment and misery until the summer comes and we can think about other things. Telegram is there as well if you want to join the conversation 24/7 365. And we mentioned Blue Monday Rewind. Do check out Dave and Craig talking about Chelsea matches from years gone by. So in terms of McKenna approaching this one, as I said, he's got a little bit of a hoodoo over Maresca, hasn't he? I do need to chuck this in the chat before I forget as well. Neil says, real hatred of Cucurella in Seb's voice, and I'm here for it all day long. I think, did you call him a bell end? I think we'll go
professional
with
bell end. I kept it respectful. I called him a professional bell end. Yeah, he throws himself to the ground every chance he gets. And do you remember we did that weird song in the summer about Haaland, and Haaland then promptly destroyed him in the first game of the season? Yeah, he's not one of my favourites.
There you go. If you're looking for a first goal scorer, check him out alongside Cole Palmer. This is in my thinking, Seb. I'll just chuck this in because it's in the chat and Michael has put it out there. Jack Clark to start? Question mark.
Yeah, I guess the issues that we don't know about, obviously it's a day later than normal, so the pre-match press conference won't be until Friday. So we don't know about Townsend's injury. Leif Davis replaced him very late on against Wolves. We don't know about Amari Hutchinson. And I think our out of possession work is going to be really, really important on Sunday. You've mentioned slightly a few minutes ago about maybe we try and do a similar performance to Arsenal. That's going to require real kind of discipline. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a change in that left wing kind of role. And I'm not sure that Nathan Broadhead is maybe the person to start at Stamford Bridge. I think maybe you look for Jack Clark or Jaden Philogene, one of those two, because they are better off the ball and kind of will pick up some of the defensive role. And then I guess the vast majority of it's kind of going to stay the same, isn't it? You know, Palmer, regardless of the error last week, will be the keeper, or the back four. Davis is the only question mark if Townsend doesn't potentially make it. Do we bring Calvin Phillips back in alongside Kayusa? Do we keep Sam Morsey? I think given how powerful Fernandes and Casado are, I think I'd probably prefer Calvin Phillips in there. We saw last week with João Gomez and Andre, you know, they kind of ran all over our midfield too. So it's about to get harder. Maybe you need that little bit of nous experience and quality that Calvin Phillips brings alongside Jens Kajust. Being an away game, I fully expect Ben Johnson to be the right wing back / right wing kind of option.
And we called for that at home last week and it didn't really work. I mean, we're trying our best to chuck these things in there, and bless Kieran McHenry. Everyone said unchanged after Bournemouth. He left it unchanged, and there's nothing you could. The players were shattered by 60 minutes, and we got overrun. So, damned if he does, damned if he doesn't.
Unfortunately, so I assume Enciso will still be one of the 10s alongside, like I say, either Philogene or Clark for me. Behind Liam Delap, a good chance for Liam Delap to get used to his surroundings for next season, potentially.
Stop it.
Other than that, I mean, I've seen some chat in the week on social media and stuff. And do we now bin off the players that aren't going to be here? Yeah, Neil's put it there in the chat there. What do we do about the team and the low knees? Do we forward plan now? I mean, I guess until it's mathematical, no, you don't, because you never know in football, do you? Yes, it's incredibly unlikely that we will find ourselves in the Premier League again next season. But until that is rubber stamped, it will be a hell of a risk to do that and kind of leave ourselves.
But it doesn't.
Short. And
I don't think it helps. I know the sentiment, because you want to build. There's so much uncertainty around this team that we don't know who actually is going to be here in the summer. So I kind of think that we owe it to try to finish the season with some level of momentum to play the strongest possible team, and that should disregard whether they've got a relegation clause or whether they're on loan or anything else. So I think it's just pick the best possible team you can and just get to the summer and then reset and think again and rebuild from there. I honestly think, chucking in what you could do is you could play a League One 11 or players that you know are definitely going to be here, and they could get absolutely tonked every single week for the rest of the season. And that's not what you want going into a season where there's a lot of hope and expectation that we hit the ground and bounce straight back. So for me, it's the strongest possible team. It's regardless of their status, contract, loan, or otherwise. So
yeah, totally agree with that, because we have to end the season strong. I mean, there's commercial reasons. Season ticket renewals will be out soon, and they're going to want to create a bit of optimism around that. And if you've got, you know, players that you're potentially looking to move on in the summer, then you want to ensure they are kind of in the shop window. I'm not talking about the likes of Delap with a clause, but maybe there's some other players there that might get moves in the summer, and you need to ensure that they're getting kind of, minutes to make sure other clubs are noticing that if you want to look to move them on. So yeah, I mean, there's only 6 games to go after this is game 32, isn't it? 6 games to go after this weekend. It all just becomes weekends after this. There's no more midweek games. There's no reason for heavy rotation. So I would assume we will kind of keep going with the strongest 11 all the way through, and then, as you say, look to rebuild in the summer.
So this is your team for those listening on podcast. Do you want to kind of talk through it? And
yeah, I mean, I've realised I've left Morsey in there. I did mean to put Calvin Phillips in. I've gone for Philogene on the left, but it could just as easily be Jack Clark. I just think it will be one of those two ahead of Broadhead for the off the ball kind of stuff. Leif Davis, I've assumed, will come back in if Connor Townsend is still injured. And apart from that, it doesn't really change, does it? Twanzebe gives that protection down our right hand side / their left. So if it is Noni Madueke or Jadon Sancho, I'd feel pretty confident in Twanzebe's ability to kind of work with that, and yeah, the rest of it kind of almost picks itself at this point. The only thing I would probably do if I'd sanity check this picture before sending it to you, apologies, would be to put Calvin Phillips back in for Sam Morsey.
Cool. Let us know your thoughts in the chat as well. Any changes you'd make to the team, anything you'd bring in. I think someone was asking about formations. I think we know the formation by now. I don't think that's going to change. So work on the basis of the usual formation and figure out players to and how you might exploit Chelsea, or how you might try and find that advantage against Chelsea. We'll also finish with predictions, so start mulling those over. I can't say don't sugarcoat it, but we know it's going to be a tough one on Sunday, but enjoy yourselves in the predictions is what I say. Let's have some fun before we say goodbye. But before we do, let's chat about FPL. Thank you to Brett Vale. And if you're inspired by the Masters, then we're better to try out golf than Brett Vale Golf Club, just down the road from Ipswich, a few miles down the road from the Copdock interchange in Constable Country. Lovely visage, lovely sunny weather. Might get a little bit cold next week, but that from then on, summer is here. So get down there, take advantage of membership offers through to next year, through to the 25 credit on your beer card or your shop card, and tell them Blue Monday sent you, and I'm sure they'll look after you. BrettValeGolf.co.uk is where you can find all the details. Thank you for their support for this utterly meaningless feature. I can try all kinds of things, but at the end of the day, I lose by a couple of points now. It's kind of got to the point. It's kind of like Ipswich in the Premier League. I kind of got to the point where I'm losing marginally now. I'm not being tonked anymore like I was in the middle of the season.
What's worse?
I don't get any joy out of, you've only lost by a few points. So it's equally bad, equally horrible. Let's put the table up. You won by 5 points. Well done. Congratulations. Hope you feel proud of yourself, taking advantage of me and my inability to do FPL. I'm trying to figure out who did the damage. I mean, I did an extra transfer that cost me 4 points. Yeah, there's a 1 point delta in there somewhere. Someone will have done something. Someone farted and then set a point. But who am I? I'm not bitter. Do you want to talk through your team?
I made a couple of changes. I've gone to 4-4 Effing 2. There's a double game week, isn't there, for Newcastle and Palace. So I've bought in Dan Burn for an easy double game week. I've put Sarr back in the lineup. I've kept Amari and Delap as my ITFC representatives, kind of hoping Hutchinson doesn't play, so Morgan Rogers, who's playing against Southampton, can come straight in. And I've made Isak my captain because he is playing twice. And I've put Pope, who is normally my reserve goalkeeper, in the net because he's got a double game week as well. What can I just ask quickly? What have you got like triple captain and stuff still to play? Or
I do.
Okay. Right. Okay. Interesting.
Guess what?
Oh, you're playing it this week?
It's Isak.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So if you're looking for someone to not put in your FPL team because they're going to pick up an injury in training on Friday, it's Isak, because I've now cursed him. He definitely won't play, will he? Or he'll get injured or something. He didn't score against Leicester, did he? But Murphy did. You gave me stick for Murphy, and he got a brace, didn't he? So
Jacob Murphy, I owe you an apology. I took the piss out of you this time last week, saying, "Why have you bought Jacob Murphy?" Then I think I sent you the eye emojis when after his second goal in against Leicester on Monday night. But thankfully, it didn't matter.
I just needed him to get another goal.
Who cares? And wouldn't make a difference, though, would it? You'd still be 300 points behind. So
that's true. I need him to score another 300 goals. So yeah, Isak comes in, triple captain, and I've gone Amari. I've gone triple Ipswich. There you go, loyalty. I've got a warm, fuzzy feeling. No, I just don't have any options. So, yeah, Newcastle need to do me a favour. We shall come back. Well, is it done by next week? I guess it is, isn't it?
Yes,
it's Wednesday.
It's only the Wednesday night, the game in hand. So yeah, this time next week we can work out if I've beaten you by 3 or 4 points.
Brilliant, love it. Thanks very much, everyone. If I'll leave Seb to read the comments and figure out if there's anything there that is unnecessary that I don't need to read about myself. But let's put Brett Vale's logo up. Thank you, Brett Vale. Appreciate you. Final 5, actually, literally, as I said it, final 5. Get your predictions in, any thoughts on team news. And as I say, go creative with the predictions. Let's have some fun. There's 6 games left. It's like the last few weeks of school, isn't it? Let's bring some games in. Let's bring your Mega Drive in. Or what was the little portable Sega game? Was
Game Gear, Sega
Game Gear. Bring your Game Gear in, and you start, Buckaroo, all that kind of stuff. Was there anything in the chat that I need to? No,
Streaky put a popcorn emoji.
I thought Streaky and I were friends. There's a few people that really nice to me in face to face, but in the chat, just I second guessing our relationship, Streaky. I thought you had my back, but
don't listen to him, Streaky.
I'm pretty certain I gave you the one-stop badge, and no one's got my back. No one's got my back. Let's have a look at the predictions before I ask you, Seb. Colin, straight in there, 2-2. Love it. And he's Ipswich Town Football Club 2, Chelsea 2. AD, a little bit of realism, 2-1. Would you take a 2-1? As weird as it sounds?
It's better than my prediction, yeah.
What do you want to do your prediction then?
I think we're going to lose 3-1. I think we might score. They do concede, as I've said. Sanchez in goal is always capable of throwing one in, and they only, 7 clean sheets in 25. So, yes, their home form is imperious. Yes, I'm not expecting to get anything from the game.
Yes, they spent £1 billion on transfers.
Give us a goal. Give us a goal to enjoy and celebrate. Let's go 1-0 up. That would be fun. Just like City for those magical 90 seconds.
Oh, do you remember the good old? Do you remember Sam Smodic?
Sammy Smodic after 3 minutes, was it?
Connor Chaplin. Play Connor Chaplin. Stick him in there, Kieran. Come on.
Dreamland. Yeah, give us a goal, 1-0 up. Give us a moment. And then I expect Chelsea to come back. And I think Chelsea will win 3-1. And I think Cole Palmer will score.
I like the 3-1. I like I don't. I mean, I would love to win the game or get a point. But in terms of I like the logic around it, it's a nice symmetry to the FA Cup game. And maybe I should wear this shirt on Sunday. Fine margins, says Neil. Fine margins, Rich. Spot on, Neil. It's the fine margins that are costing me at the moment. Michael, our mate in Brisbane, 1-0 score from a corner. Stranger things have happened. Colin giving us a Burnley Norwich prediction, 3-0. Good to see Norwich toiling away mid-table, back where they belong. What have we got? There you go, Seb. 3-1. Says Neil, 3-1 Town. I thought I misread that. Red card for Chelsea.
Cucurella.
Love it. Stop it. Streaky's going for a 3-1 Ipswich Town. Blimey, love it. Zach King, Dr. Zach King. 2-1 Town. Get a double for the hell of it. Why not? Seabass says exactly the same thing. Why not? 3-1 Town. Love this, folks. Let's always end like this. I mean, reality doesn't matter. We exist in the bubble of anything being possible. What's this from Streaky? We're friends. It's befriend or lose. Unbelievable. I can block people, Streaky. Goodness me.
That might be the slogan for the back of the t-shirt there, Streaky. If you
love it.
Permission to use it.
The winner of the loser season. Yeah, love it. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, friends. Who needs enemies? Hey, get your final thoughts in. Well, I think it's your turn now, isn't it, to sign off, Seb? Not that should we do it both? Should we both do it? Should neither of us do it?
Yeah, let's abandon that. Maybe it's the last thing we can try. We've tried parking in our regular parking space. We've tried doing our usual pre-match routines, but maybe it's the curse of the pre-match sign-off, which has resulted in 20 Premier League points.
Change the Atwell's advert. We're in the pink. Come on, everyone. We can do this. Trevor, we are doing a shock result, he says. Pass me another pint. Good stuff, Trevor. Thank you, everyone. If you've made it to minute 59, we appreciate you. Hopefully, a little bit of knowledge imparted by Seb, as always. Hopefully, a little bit of distraction from the as I said, the torment that's been this season. It's not long to go until it looks like we'll have a bit more of a straightforward time of it, hopefully, and a positive summer. Thank you to Atwells. Thank you to One Stop Badges. Thank you to Brett Vale Golf. Please do give us some thumbs up before you depart, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Join the guys Sunday night flagship show with Ben, Dave, and Joe talking about the game after the fact. Good luck to ITFC Women. Come on, you Blues. Let's win that game at Milton Keynes. And I'll put some comments up. Seb, you can sign us out. And if you give me a wave when you want me to press the button, I will press the button.
Echo your thoughts for ITFC Women. Bring the championship title, whether it's the league. What is the league one equivalent, isn't it?
Southern Premier Division
title.
That's
back to Suffolk on Sunday afternoon, and ensure the fans that go to MK Dons will probably have a better afternoon than those of us going to West London. I'm still looking forward to it. I've never been to Chelsea, so I'm going to tick it off. I've never been to Newcastle in a couple of weeks' time, so I'm going to tick it off. You've never been to Goodison, so you're going to tick that off. And that's the attitude we have to have for these last few games of the season. Let's enjoy them as best we can. Their experiences for us all, their trips out that we haven't had for many, many years. And you know, we have got if we worked out earlier, in the pink kit, we have a record of win, Spurs, draw, Fulham, lose, Palace. So if that repeats itself, we should beat Chelsea on Sunday. And you cannot argue with science. Come on, you Blues!